On today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we'll be discussing the Florida Panthers 4-3 win over the Vancouver Canucks, which did not come easy towards the end. We're also going to be chatting about what's been going wrong in the third period for this Florida Panthers team that they just can't put teams away. And we are going to be discussing the upcoming schedule where the Florida Panthers will be playing 8 games in 13 nights, all on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, January 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects with Heidi Halakash. And don't forget to send in your screenshot of your subscription to the Locked On Florida Panthers YouTube channel and your 5-star rating for a chance to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Tampa Bay Lightning game on February 6th. And you could send that over to me via DM at LO_FLA Panthers, or you can email it to me at lockedonflapanthers@gmail.com. So, Cats fans, the Florida Panthers defeat the Vancouver Canucks by a final score of 4-3 on Vamos Gatos night. Tuvo un partido muy estresante, pero las Panteras de la Florida ganaron este partido. Translation, it was a game that was very stressful for the Florida Panthers, but they found a way. 2 points is 2 points. And honestly, the design by Carlos Solano, great, amazing. And the amount of work that he's done, not only promoting his art, but promoting hockey in Florida via his art and telling a story as well along with that is just so cool. I hope that if you did have a chance to, even if you didn't buy the Vamos Gatos jersey inside the boards outside of section 122, that you got a chance to like see it up close and just see what the Panthers had on the ice. And a lot of players, even after the game, spoke about how they want to see them in an actual game setting. So maybe it's something that we could see down the line for this Florida Panthers team. But let's talk about the game itself for the Cats, and just when it comes to really the first 2 periods for this Panthers team, you felt that even when the Florida Panthers were down, which they were for multiple times this year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, um, actually no, that would be incorrect because if because the Florida Panthers did not trail after the first period in this one. This game ended up being tied after the first period. So the Florida Panthers don't get their first win via trailing after one period. So they the the Vancouver Canucks did, however, score first, and usually when the opposition scores first, the Panthers have only won 3 games this season. This was one of them. And even then, the Panthers, you never felt that this game was out of reach. The first goal by Jason Studnicka, a little bit of a knuckleball, turnover in their own zone, which that's really how goals have been entered into the Panthers' net really this season. Is just the Panthers pinning their own zone. The opposition is just forechecking the Panthers into turnovers, and then Bob or Spencer Knight this season have been left out to dry a lot this season, as up and down as their performance has been. But for me, I never felt that this game was out of reach. I mean, you look at the total shot attempts, even after period one, 26-13 in favor of the Panthers. I mean, and what can we say about the fourth line continuing to just all effort for this for this line, even though Eric Stahl isn't a part of that line anymore, and Colin White has been inserted there. Giovanni Smith, great zone entry, getting past Oliver Ekman Larson, who Oliver Ekman Larson was a healthy scratch on Thursday against the Tampa Bay Lightning for the first time since 2011, I believe, and cycling around the puck. Giovanni Smith and Ryan Lomberg getting to the damn net. Gus Forsling with a shot fake and then creating a shooting lane off of Giovanni Smith, and then Ryan Lomberg's there to clean it up. And that's Ryan Lomberg's second goal against the Vancouver Canucks this season. I mean, he was part of those 3 goals in 59 seconds for the Cats back in December on their December 3rd matchup back at Rogers Place. And that goal was created all on Giovanni Smith there based on entering the zone, making sure that he wasn't pinned towards the board, and even getting it out and getting it behind the net, chipping it back, and then cycling it around, and then getting to the net when necessary for him. The Panthers did suffer a little bit of a scare when Alexander Barkov took a shot to the non-padding part of his knee, very slow to get off the ice, and I believe he only missed one shift after that, and still came back. Gus Forsling as well. He took a shot off the calf, so these Cats are getting a little bit beat up here. I mean, we're through 44 games of the season. At this point, you're basically mostly beat up for the most part. It's really about how you last the rest of the way, and even with that second goal for the Vancouver Canucks, which just um, wrong place, wrong time for the Cats. There, you see Aaron Ekblad and Sasha Barkov uh, skating towards their left, and then unfortunately it screens Sergei Bobrovsky, and Sergei Bobrovsky doesn't even see it as well. And even after that first goal, Jack Stanika was feeling himself. He was able to get past the defense as well, which another odd man rush given up by when Brandon Montour was on the ice as well, and a little bit of bad stretches here for Money Montour as of late, but it doesn't take away with the season that Montour has had. Uh, but the Panthers were still getting their fair share of rush chances, even though we haven't really seen a lot of it this season, and that's really the opposite of everything that the Panthers were last season. Their second goal, where Eric Stahl was right in front of the net. They were aggressive on their board battles right before Josh Mahura's point shot was deflected off Stahl. And listen, it took a little bit for Eric Stahl to get going for this Panthers team, and now he's climbing up the leaderboards in points in NHL history. So he's getting up there, and it took a little bit for the guy who missed a lot of time last season. Well, didn't play in the NHL last season, but also the power play. We've seen back-to-back games where the power play is looking kind of like last season, where in the previous game against the Vegas Golden Knights, Sam Reinhart is right in front of right in the slot for an opportunity for a goal, and Aaron Ekblad a one-timer chance, something that me and specifically Jacob were like raving about. Why can't you just keep Aaron Ekblad down low on that left circle to fire his one-timers, because he's been lethal there at times on the power play. And listen, the Panthers are adjusting on the power play, second best power play in the NHL since the NHL returned from the Christmas break. It's just really the penalty kill for this Panthers team, and which is ranked second to last. Guess what? Just ahead of the Vancouver Canucks. And The second power play goal, which was a beautiful backhand dish from Sam Reinhart to Alexander Barkov, just Spencer Martin just had no chance on that one, and eight of their last 16 on the man advantage. And the Panthers lately have just been playing keep away with the puck, and I was not I wasn't too uncomfortable with it happening with the 2-goal lead, but when you're not generating the chances and getting in front of the net, which 3 out of the 4 goals for the Panthers were right in front of the net on Saturday night, the Panthers were playing that keep away game and not generating their chances up front, and that's how you get a 15-5 shot on goal advantage from the Vancouver Canucks in that third period. And Sergei Bobrovsky having to come out big, even though he gave up a soft goal on the first one, going 34 of 37 on the night. And the and then the penalty kill, they went 1 for 5. They still give up their fair share of goals, but I'm not upset with how the penalty kill looked on that night specifically. As of late, yeah. So when you look at it through the grand scheme of things, the penalty kill still looks really bad. But in that instance, the Panthers were still forcing the Canucks outside, and the Canucks were actually shooting themselves in the foot because they were just consistently misconnecting on passes and the puck just going out of their own zone. I mean, we've talked a whole bunch about in this podcast here and there about how disastrous of a franchise Vancouver is, with so many people wanting out. Bo Horvat, the power play goal eventually was changed to Bo Horvat from Elias Pettersson, third leading goal scorer in the NHL, and behind Robo and Connor McDavid, and but still the Panthers allowing the opposition to just get multiple shots in a row without the Panthers responding is just a little bit of a concern. And the Vancouver Canucks were just quick on their zone exits, and great block by Gus Forsling in on the 6-on-5, uh, where Peterson had an opportunity to tie the game, and also untimely penalties. I know it was Eric Stahl that went to the box, but it was actually a penalty on Mark Stahl on that cross check towards the blue line. And Aaron Ekblad, just another silly penalty. Just 2 out of the last 3 games, Aaron Ekblad had an opportunity to cost the Panthers a chance to win, or a chance to send it to overtime when you could have won this comfortably, but the Panthers did not make this a very comfortable win. In segment number 2, we were going to discuss what's been going on with the Panthers, and we're going to go further on how their third periods have been going this season, and if it's something that we believe can be fixed throughout the rest of this season. But first, we're going to tell you all about Athletic Greens. And our next partner is a product that I literally use every day. And I started taking AG1 because, as you know, being from South Florida, there's it's called Ventanita culture, where you just get to pop up to a random Cuban restaurant and window, order your coffee there, and you get to leave just right then and there. Something that I miss up here, definitely in Orlando. And, sometimes you need a little break from the coffee. So I decided to start taking my Athletic Greens. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotic adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients help you support your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, all the things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition with just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills, supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment number 2 here on this Monday, January 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. And listen, you win yeah, the Cats have won 4 out of their last 6. Yeah, the Florida Panthers have eked out these wins, especially against Colorado, which there was. Listen, they're the Stanley Cup champions. Yeah, they have a whole bunch of injuries, but still allowing them to crawl back in with the three goal lead. Had your chance against Vegas, where you only allow a two shots on goal by them in a 20-minute stretch. But then also Saturday, which the travel schedule for Florida is brutal. It just, I know in one trip, whenever Western Conference teams come to Florida, especially they want to cover Tampa, Florida, and then Carolina there in the same trip, or even Tampa, Florida, Nashville in that as well. But man, it's not a favorable schedule for the Panthers right now, where you just have one and then you're going out already. But hey, um, the Panthers, they still found a way uh, to win this, and it's just what's being said in between periods, because look at this stat from, and this is from Hockey Reference. The first 2 periods for this Florida Panthers team, their goal differential is plus 14. You still with me? Their third period goal differential is minus 19. What is being said in that locker room in between the second and third period? And I actually had an appearance on today's episode of Locked On NHL with Gil Martin on the Monday edition. If you guys want to listen to that, make sure to listen to Monday's edition of Locked On NHL. And I was asked this question: what is it a conditioning issue for the Panthers? It made me think a little bit, and maybe more the fact that morning skates are optional for the Panthers. I at first I thought of it as, okay, these are hockey players. These guys know how to play the game. They do the things they need to do to be in shape for game time. But when they're if a player is choosing the option not to be at morning skate, what are they doing prior to the game to get themselves ready as well? Because it seems like that the Panthers are putting a lot of energy into the first 2 periods. Excuse me. And then they're running out of gas later in the game. And maybe that's why it's resulting in the keep away game for the Cats. And it can only work for so long. Comebacks just, it's not only a Florida Panthers thing, it's a league-wide thing. The A 2-goal lead's not safe in this era of hockey. The game is more skilled than ever. It's faster than ever. And yeah, Paul Maurice has been around for a long time, but this just is not a something that can last for the whole season if this is how you're going to approach when having leads going into period number 3, which I call it the turd period. It's now officially called the turd period for me, in my opinion. And every time the third period comes around, I, I'm I'm just emotionally ready, honestly, for something to happen. I mean, we could even go back to their game against the Dallas Stars just last week, where they were trailing, and it wasn't for a lack of effort. If you look at the box score, some might have thought that the Panthers might have quit, but actually watching the game and looking at the chances that the Panthers were trying to generate and just to no avail, the Panthers in-game adjustments is just so off for this team. So it's they're pinned in their own zone. They're not creating speed through the neutral zone. And even when they are, they at times we just see them try to chip it up the boards, dump the puck, and the opposition is quickly retrieving the puck and having a quick zone exit. So, what are the Panthers going to do in order to adjust that? Because the plus 14 in the first two periods to the minus 19 is alarming. Comeback Cats last year. We saw it all flipped. It's a different style of play for this team, as we know. And the thing is, this isn't a team that gives up a lot of rush chances neither. So their way of giving up goals, like I said in segment number one, is just consistently pinned in their own zone, turnovers, and the opposition just constantly creating on the forecheck. And it's and we got to give not only credit to Sergei Bobrovsky for Saturday's performance, but what he's done since December 1st. Spencer has gone through his non-COVID illness earlier, just a month ago, and now going through this stint on IR, which tomorrow will be over a week since he's been on injured reserve. So he could come back for the game against the Maple Leafs. Could, very well could. But Sergei Bobrovsky, 920 save percentage since December 1st. That's back to elite goaltending. And even Aaron Ekblad after the game said that Bob's an elite goaltender. I'm not sure if he's like elite as like whole season, but there's been stretches where he looks elite. And I said it even before game 1 of the season that Bob's performance, if it's bad, it's more of a detriment to this team than Spencer Knight, because Spencer Knight has time to get himself together. But we can't complain about how Sergei Bobrovsky has been playing as of late. He's giving the Panthers a chance to win every night, and the Panthers are scoring too. It's just a lot of shot volume for the Panthers, and it's just going in different. It's happening in different ways every single time, especially in the third period, which now, Florida Panther fans, every time the third period comes around, be ready to buckle up and probably be on the edge of your seat when the Panthers enter that third period, because it's just it seems as if consistently this team has exerted all their energy. In segment number 3, we are going to be discussing not only today's matinee game between the Florida Panthers and the Buffalo Sabres, but we're also going to be discussing the Florida Panthers' 8 games in the next 13 days. A brutal stretch for the Florida Panthers coming up. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get all the latest odds trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football, college bowl season, basketball, and the NHL. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your sports betting info. Head to the website today or use a mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Third and final segment here on this Monday, January 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I want to wish everybody a happy Martin Luther King Day. And if you happen to be working and getting your time and a half pay, more props to you. Go get your money, and proud of you for hustling. If you happen to be hustling on a day like today, but also for people who happen to not be working, I hope you guys are enjoying your time off, and I hope you guys have some time to watch some Panthers hockey. That's what at least my plan to do today, which we're gonna try to bring in Joe DiBiase of Locked On Sabres to discuss the Panthers versus Sabres game, and also maybe some football talk with the Miami Dolphins facing the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, which that game was they had it. They had it, and I was expecting a blowout in that game, and they still gave themselves a chance. And I'm not personally upset about the performance based on the circumstances for the Cats. But let's pivot over before I go on a football ramble because there's a hockey podcast. But let's discuss really the latest stretch of games for the Panthers coming up. And Paul Murray spoke about how the last week, as brutal as it was going through different time zones, Detroit, Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, as tough as that is for the Panthers and going through different time zones, that he said that he feels like that's the quote unquote easy part of the schedule. Even though there's no easy parts in the NHL schedule, I kind of understand what he means because of the despite playing the four different games in different time zones, you're not none of those were back to backs for the Panthers. So you have a little bit of time to like sleep, go on a plane ride, and even before the Panthers went to Colorado, they stayed in Dallas the very next day. They could have, and that was a matinee game that you could have just flown to Colorado right away, and then they decided to give themselves a little bit of rest, practice, and then leave. So great recovery time for the Panthers there for that stretch last week, but the this one this is just absolutely brutal. The Panthers are just gonna grab some buffalo wings, play a hockey game, and then off taking a train to Toronto to Scotiabank Arena on Tuesday night, which the Panthers, when they face the Buffalo Sabres, just on the second game of the season for the Cats, which, hey, on that second game of the season was my 29th birthday, and the Panthers came out with a win on that. So not mad about that. So now you guys know when my birthday is. But the Buffalo Sabres, we were still seeing them at the time as just this team continuing to rebuild. Of course, we spoke about their goaltending issues with an aging Craig Anderson, 40-year-old Craig Anderson, and Eric Comrie at the time, even though Eric Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has had a little bit of time now with the Buffalo Sabres, even though I believe he's been sent back down to AHL Rochester. Yes, he has been sent down to AHL Rochester. But listen, this Sabres team is the highest scoring team in the NHL. Yeah, their record doesn't show as far as that, but man, this teams can score, but at the same time, they can't defend. So that is a you don't want to get into a track meet with this team. This is the last one of the few teams you want to get into a track meet with. And this Buffalo Sabres team kind of reminds me of like the Bob Bugner Panthers teams that they can score, but they have a hard time defending. And what did the Panthers have during those Bob Bugner years? An aging goaltender. Even though we still love Roberto Luongo here in South Florida. So, and can't say enough about Tage Thompson and the season that he's having for the Buffalo Sabres, part of the Ryan O'Reilly deal. Of course, Ryan O'Reilly wins the Conn Smythe with the St. Louis Blues, and looks like now the St. Louis Blues are gonna be going away from the Ryan O'Reillys and the Vladimir Tarasenko's. I mean, unfortunately, they weren't able to re-sign Alex Pietrangelo after winning the Stanley Cup, but they're slowly transitioning and making Jordan Kyrou and Logan Thomas as part of their core. But with the Buffalo Sabres, I mean, this is a team on the rise. Rasmus Dahlin is also having a great season, and also the guy who wants to be there in Buffalo, and Alex Tuck, who's from Syracuse, part of the Jack Eichel trade from Vegas to Buffalo, and listen, there's been so many questions on who would you rather have, Tage Thompson or Jack Eichel, and it's just the different skill sets that they bring, and and also their size, which Tage Thompson, let me look up his height. This dude's huge. He is the pure definition of your power forward. He's 6'6". and he's doing and he's doing and that's so valuable for a center, especially when it comes to facing off and trying to get in position to dish the puck out to the point as well, winning your board battle. So he is the truth, and the fact that his cap hit for his new contract doesn't kick in until next year. He's still making 1.4 million for Buffalo this year, and the Pagula family, which is the same ownership group for the Sabres that owns the Bills, they are they look to be smiling at the deal that they were able to get for Tage Thompson when everyone questioned, oh, this is just one good season for the center, for the former first round pick. But just this guy has just been performing well. And Rasmus Dahlin, if it wasn't for Erik Karlsson and what he's doing in San Jose, I think that Rasmus Dahlin is is up there as far as possibly winning the Norris Trophy as well. And he's just been leading the charge on the blue line for Buffalo. And listen, there's still an up and coming player in Owen Power as well, and Jack Quinn too. Even though Jack Quinn only has seven goals on the season and 19 points after a great year in Rochester, so there's still something to build on for the Buffalo Sabres here. And listen, if you can eliminate the track meet game for the Buffalo Sabres, you can find a way to win. And the Panthers, they're in this territory now where they might have to go perfect on this trip to save their season. 4 out of 6 points might do the job, but they've fallen so far behind the 8 ball that they might have to go perfect on this trip. And you know what? It's not going to happen. I'm telling you now, it's not going to happen for this Panthers team. The Montreal is very winnable, obviously. The hardest game, of course, on this trip is Toronto. But it's funny. The game you probably need the most in this trip is this Buffalo game because of where they are in the standings versus Toronto, a team that you're not going to catch, and Montreal, who's kind of in the wild card race, but I'm not expecting them to make a run for a spot. But this one right here against Buffalo, which is still probably another year away from contending once they get their goaltending situation fixed. Then the Buffalo Sabres will probably be in better position to be a contender for the Atlantic Division and the NHL. So, excuse me. If there's one game, especially to get on this one, it's today, 1 p.m. Valley Sports, Florida. A very early one, so that means not only after the game, we get to enjoy the rest of our day, and it's not a late night recording for yours truly, and we get to enjoy the rest of our day, whether it's watching the rest of the hockey games or just enjoying the time with your families. If you decide to be on the beach for MLK Day or go to the park or whatever you may do, we don't get a lot of these often on a Monday, but I'm excited to have an early one on a Monday, and I hope that you guys are too. So, like I said, on tomorrow's show, we're going to try to bring in Joe DiBiase of Locked On Sabres to discuss this game and, of course, a little bit of football talk between another South Florida team versus a Western New York team. So make sure to keep your eyes and ears out for that show. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Make sure to subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone, and Locked On NHL Prospects with Heidi Halakash. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today gives you a 20-minute or less podcast on the entirety of the sports scene with exclusive interviews from your local experts. Subscribe to Locked On Today on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.